Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Daily, TGIF, as we wrap up the work week here. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor to help you do it. Glad that you're with us here on KFH or online on the internet, on the video. Hey, look at us. We got our video stream out right now on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. You can sneak through work on your day with us as well. Chad Chambers producing. Phone lines open. The IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll give away our remaining Fast X movie tickets, a special sneak preview coming next week. We'll have that for you. We'll get you ready for the weekend. Look back at a busy day in the sports world last night as well. Tommy, how are you?
Ready for Friday, ready for the weekend. Glad to be here. I feel like this week has flown by, and it should be, I think, fingers crossed, fairly nice weather. I know a lot of people have Mother's Day plans this weekend. I think we've got a brunch to go to on Sunday. So, hey, I'll take it. It's going to be good.
Are you even Mother's Daying if you're not brunching?
Exactly.
We don't have a plan in place just yet for our Mother's Day. So don't laugh at me or yell at me.
A little procrastinating there, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's been a busy week at HTO with the stores. It's Teacher and Nurse Appreciation Week, and we're sort of in survival mode. We've had 3 different kinds of sick-ish kids all week randomly. It's been a lot. So I have to warn my wife, hey, I don't have any plans yet. So what do you want to do? It's not good because I'm not good at surprising because I can't keep surprises. And she's not good at receiving surprises because she likes to, be in charge of things. Some might call it, bossy. I wouldn't call it that.
No, never.
But, she likes to know what's going on. And so it makes it a little hard. Surprises are a little tricky for us. And I don't have a surprise. What do you want to do? Go to brunch, right? That's the answer. But now it's Friday before Mother's Day. We're not getting into any brunches.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of places are full with reservations and all that. I used to really resist brunches. I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it.
Why?
And then then I learned obviously you get to kind of drink, during breakfast time. And so I'm like, what have I been missing out on this entire time? And now I'm all about it. Give me all the Bloody Marys possible. I will enjoy myself and have a wonderful time.
The brilliance of brunch is usually it gives and I'm going to stereotype here for a minute, so forgive me for that. I hope nobody's offended, but it gives women, like a chance to dress up and go somewhere nice and be fancy and do all that stuff. And it gives men an excuse to have Bloody Marys or mimosas at like 9 a.m.
Exactly.
Or 10 a.m. So like whoever came up with brunch is brilliant. The food options are like, who couldn't eat breakfast all day? I mean, come on now. Like,
and it's not just breakfast,
anytime.
right? Like, you can have your eggs and your bacon and, French toast and all of that. Oh, and by the way, how about some prime rib? You want to throw a big slab of prime rib on my plate at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Mashed potatoes and gravy with those, eggs? Sure.
Totally in on that. You mentioned surprises and how difficult it is to keep surprises. My wife and I are exactly the same way. Like, we do not surprise each other very well. And I'll tell you a quick story. So last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we were on vacation and just, hanging out, my wife and I, and she goes, "Hey, I was going to tell you, I had an idea. I was going to surprise you with this, but I had an idea for your 40th birthday. What I want you to go and do." And I'm 37 years old. So, I've got 3 years. She's like, "There's no way I can keep a secret for another 3 years. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I was thinking for your 40th in 3 years." So we're not good at surprising each other. It's like, we have an idea, we'll just tell each other, and then we'll plan it, from there.
There's no way that a surprise is going that long. 3 years?
Right.
I mean, what is it? What are you going to do?
She, surprisingly, she's like, "Hey, I think that you should go on a golf trip to Scottsdale." And I was like, I mean, count me in. Like, that's amazing. Yeah. But now the problem is she told me 3 years ahead of time. So now I have to wait for 3 years.
Just sit here and wait for it?
Sit there and wait and think like, man, like, I wish I could do this tomorrow, but it's going to be in 3 years. So I've got to sit back and wait.
Are you and your wife close in age?
She's 2 years younger than I am.
Oh, see, my wife's a coug. So like the problem, and I coug by like 8 months, but I call her a cougar, which she does not think is as hilarious as I do. That I mention that at every possible opportunity to total strangers. But so we're going to have like an issue on that, and we're not there yet either. What did I just turn? I just have 38. So we'll have a couple but the problem is I'm going to have to do something. She is like, again, we're not similar in these ways. Like, she's the oldest of 2 girls. I'm the youngest of 5 boys. So birthdays aren't that big a deal. Like, in our, like, there's 5 of us. Like, for my parents, it's like, yeah, it's your birthday, let's have some cake and, we'll do it. Not a big deal, right? You got a birthday party for a while, and then you is usually going to a restaurant when you get older, whatever. Not my wife. Birthday's her big deal. She's birthday princess. She gets like a birthday month. Like, what are we going to do for my birthday? What's happening for my birthday? Like, that very different. So opposite ends of the spectrum. So like 40 is terrifying to me because I don't know what to do for that. Like, I have no idea what to do, but the problem's going to be is that it comes relatively close to mine. So now it's like, I don't know how to, like, I'm not going to be excited about mine because I'm too terrified to get hers wrong. And maybe I should start planning it now. Maybe I'll call your wife and say, "Hey, how do you plan something 2 years out?" Like, I don't plan things 2 days. I still don't even have Mother's Day plans. How am I supposed to plan a 40th birthday party?
She would be able to help you out with that. I mean, I'm a planner too. And so my wife and I work well together. We like to have things, a schedule put together. We've got a big schedule on the wall for the week and, who's doing what and what's for dinner. And very organized. Like, that's just the way my wife and I are. And so I'm organized and I own that. She is extremely organized. Like, she's the kind of person that, and it happened, I think last night, I was picking up our son's toys after he went to bed. And then after I was done, she went and rearranged where I had picked them up and where I put them. So I can't
wait for you guys to have another kid. It's going to just absolutely blow your mind. Like,
we'll see.
It's so funny picking up the toys. That's another area of disagreement in my marriage. I'm team, like, I'm not picking that up. It's coming out literally the second we wake up.
Yep.
The toys don't need to be cleaned up while I'm asleep. Like, not my wife. Like, get those off the floor right now. And I'm like, well, then make the kids do it because you're never going to convince me that that's worth my time to pick those up now so that they can come out in 8 hours while everybody's asleep. That's funny. And I'm OCD too. Like, you say she rearranged where they go. like with my office and at work. I used to get made fun of at work because I just like not even do it on purpose. I just like I put everything in the same places. And I don't even know that I'm doing it. My coworkers used to mess with me. They'd move stuff around and I'd just walk in and the first thing I'd do is like put it back where I had it and not even know I did it. But not with toys, not with kids. Like it's chaos mode. You just keep them fed, keep them watered, keep them alive. Like that's it. And chase them around to all their activities as I get ready for 4 soccer games tomorrow.
Hey guys, just a quick note for the listeners. Something about it'd be a good idea to be able to watch this, especially on our YouTube, on our broadcast that we're doing now. About 3 times during that last conversation, I kind of expected Jacob's camera just to kind of go dark, and then we just don't hear from him, And
Yeah.
so if that's ever going to happen, you want to be watching the broadcast when it does.
You'll know why. You'll know why. No, we can give out secrets here. I don't know. Your wife probably listens. My wife doesn't listen to us, Tommy. She doesn't care about this.
Come on.
My wife doesn't listen. She's like, sports. What are you talking about?
My wife will listen when I say, hey, I talked about you today. Like, let's listen back to it. And I think it's hilarious. And she just gives me a look like, I can't believe you're talking about this. Yeah.
Are you crazy? Why would you ever tell her what we talk about here?
Because I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious.
Well, it is funny. It's hilarious.
Right.
But, sometimes they don't understand what's hilarious and what not to think is funny.
Hey,
I don't know why.
Those are your words, not mine. I'm not.
I don't know why they don't understand why things
that's
aren't
all you.
hilarious.
Honey, if you're listening to that, I think you understand everything perfectly fine. Don't listen to Jacob. I'm not with him.
My wife and I constantly try to out funny each other. And like, she loves to pretend what I say isn't funny just to mess with me, even though it's obviously hilarious. All right, let's talk some sports on this Sports Daily Sports Talk Show. Through a little Mother's Day advice, marriage counseling a little bit. We got the full NFL schedules. So, we had enough of the Chiefs, I think, to not really get super excited, right, about the rest of the schedules. Honestly, Tommy, what has come out of schedule releases is the videos that the team's social media people put out are the best part, right? Like, that's the best part of this. And you sent this to me, and I'm so glad you did. And I haven't watched all the teams because it's too long and I don't have time for that. But you sent me the Titans, and the Titans is the best one I've ever seen.
So good. It's great.
They basically went man on the street and asked a bunch of, Nashville party goers pretty much about all the other teams on the schedule and what they called them. They made a schedule out of the things that people called these teams. And it is so stinking good if you haven't seen it. So much so, for example, and I'm going to pull up the fact they are. Yeah. So one person calls the Atlanta Falcons, as she looks at it, she's like, the Red Stallions, and makes like a meow sound. And so now the Atlanta Falcons official Twitter page is renamed itself the Red Stallions. And all the description says is roar, rawr, RAWR. Like, fantastic. That is where social media is an amazing thing. Things like that. There's so much garbage there. This is phenomenal. If you haven't seen that Titans team release video, it's outstanding. You should go check it out.
Yeah, there are some really good ones out there, but the Titans one takes the cake. Just the man on the street mentality, and just people seeing the logos and the casual person walking down the street may not know what all the logos are. My favorite one was the guy that was shown the Jaguars logo, and he immediately said Chester Cheeto. And I lost it when he said Chester Cheeto. That was, at that point, I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. Like, this is the best one.
Is that even the Tiger Cheeto? Is that even the Cheetos mascot's name? Like, he didn't even get that right.
Chester Cheetah, I think, isn't it? I don't know. Not Chester Cheeto. But regardless, that was good. Or the one for the Dolphins, and the lady said, Georgia, Florida Dolphins. That one was good. So they were the Georgia, Florida Dolphins. There were some both times that they played the Colts,
the Cowboys,
and people said that they were the Cowboys.
And they so like definitively, like they didn't know any of them. Like, oh, that's the Cowboys though, and it's the Colts both times. It was good. So that was out there. The Chiefs schedule, all the juicy parts of the schedule we already knew, right? We knew the opener was the Lions. We knew that they were playing both the New Year's Eve and Christmas Day game. which is kind of exciting. We didn't know how often they'd be in prime time, which is often, right? They're in prime time as of now, 3 times coming down the home stretch, 7 times, I believe, 6 or 7 times over the course of the season. Of course, that could flex around. They don't even have the Chargers game time announced. If that has significance, you can bet that will be a night primetime game. But a lot of primetime, not that surprising. Almost no noon kickoffs. I think just 1 or 2 noon kickoffs throughout the regular season. But that's the cost of doing business when you're in your dynasty and the prohibitive favorite like the Chiefs are.
I'm pretty sure that one of the noon games is the Christmas Day game, right?
It
So
is,
there's
yep.
really only one like regular scheduled week.
It's a second game of the season. Yep, that's it.
And that's wild. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Remember back when the Chiefs were not very good and they played nearly every game at noon. And I remember, seasons where it seemed like they might have one primetime game and they might play late in the afternoon, like only when they go out to the West Coast. But other than that, all their games were noon games. It's a little bit of a different world now where, the NFL and the broadcast partners, they want to have the Chiefs in the best window possible, either in the late afternoon window or in prime time. And that's just, where we're at right now.
It's fine. It's good. I don't mind the 325 games. I go back and forth. I like Sunday Night Football. It's appointment television. I enjoy it, everything about it, but it's a different vibe to watch Sunday Night Football than it is to watch Sunday day football. So I think I probably prefer the team that I like to play. I don't know. I go both ways. I like both. I think this is a nice mix on the schedule. I think fans will be excited about this. I mean, there was no chance they weren't going to be in primetime, just a ton, and they will be. The Lions is a Thursday night game. They get a Thursday night Broncos game. Now, the Lions Thursday night game doesn't really count. So as far as like disruptive Thursday night games, they get one of those against the Broncos in the season. But what's interesting this year in the NFL is I believe that teams can flex into Thursday now. There is the possibility for teams to be on the schedule twice on a Thursday. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's all changing this year. So I'm fully ready to admit that I got to just see it one time to get a good grasp of it, because there's a lot different this year than there's going to be last. The other interesting thing I thought, Tommy, that came on the schedule that stood out to me is the fact that the Jaguars are going to play in London now twice this year. It's interesting
weeks, I believe,
which makes sense, right? They can just stay there, and they're going to have to. I think it's in 2 years. I read yesterday they're going to have to probably be out of their stadium for 2 years because they're going to do major renovations there. This is actually a scenario because I've always thought, one, it's cool that the NFL has been able to have a consistent team over there to sort of give it like a home team vibe, right? The other interesting thing is but you never want to see anything happen to the great Jaguar fans, right? Like I don't want to see anything. I'd feel bad for communities that lose anything. But this does present an interesting possibility and opportunity when the Jags have to, not be in their stadium for a little while. Like, what if they spent 4 weeks of that season over in London and like could just that would be pretty cool to see something like that. I don't know that you could ever logistically have overseas teams like full time. I don't think that you could.
I think you will.
Well, not in the traditional sense, though. I mean, like you're not going to have like one random team over there.
I think there could be a division. I think that's what the NFL
that's what
will
I
be
think
working
too,
towards,
yeah.
is having an international division.
I agree.
Maybe a division of
You'd have to have a
4 or
European
something.
division, right? Like
Right.
you have the 2 teams maybe in London. You have the Frankfurt team that they've been working on, and I don't know what the other one would be. Like I don't have a clue. But eventually I think you could find that for sure. And then because you could put teams in Mexico and Toronto and have them play regular. That's not as big a deal. You just fly a little bit north or south. No problem there. But yeah, to get over there, you'd have to have a division. And that does interest me. I think that would be pretty cool. I don't like the one-off idea, like of having one random team over there, but to have 4, because that makes scheduling possible, right? That does make some sense. And I can get on board with that. So that will be something interesting. I thought that that was interesting to see the Jags over there twice. I think the writing is on the wall, right? That this is good because it's almost like they're using the Jaguars as this tester on it.
Yeah.
And now this possibility exists where they got to find a temporary home while they redo their stadium. Well, looky here. We've got this perfect opportunity to do a bunch of things.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense down the road if the NFL wants to go down this path of an international division, European division, whatever, where you've got those 4 teams that they play each other a couple of times. Then you've got, other teams from the US that are making trips over there and maybe doing a little bit of a tour around Europe to play those teams. And then maybe each one of those teams makes a trip to the US at one point during the year too. So I think that there's a way that you could make that happen. It'll make, scheduling will be more difficult, when you've got to account for an international division. But I think it's doable. And I wouldn't be surprised with the amount of fanfare and the fandom that we've seen these, teams in the Jaguars and other teams that are playing in London and Germany and all of that are getting. I think it makes sense to eventually go down that path.
There are 2 schedules that I want to take a look at as we move on in the show. I want to look at the Chiefs schedule and let us throw a dart at a final record. And I want to do it with the Jets too. Now that we have their schedule, Aaron Rodgers, I think it's been the most interesting storyline. So throughout the show here, we'll give you, we'll go through those 2 schedules as just an early exercise of something I'm sure we'll do in earnest later in the offseason, of course. We're going to get to the NBA playoffs. We're going to get you ready for a big weekend on the diamond for both Wichita State softball and baseball. Lots to go here on the show. Right now, let's give away some Fast X tickets, the latest Fast and Furious movie hitting theaters next week. We've got pairs of tickets to a special Thursday preview at Boulevard Theaters in Town West, 7 o'clock. IHOP hotline. First caller during the break right now, 869-1240. We'll be right back.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here with you on this Friday edition of the program. Glad to be here with you on this Friday edition. Congratulations to our Fast X winners. We'll do a little more of that here on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, as we make our way through. NBA playoffs last night. We're going to get a Game 7. The Celtics take care of business on the road. That is going to probably be just a really, really nice Game 7. Glad that series, quite frankly, went to 7 games because I think we deserved it. The Nuggets flexed on the Suns a little bit. Jokic was great. 25-point win. The Suns were never really in that game, even at home. Denver's the prohibitive favorite, Tommy. I know that we've talked about that. Did you have any concern about that when Phoenix even that series? I would imagine that Denver has reestablished themselves now as that for most of us with a win like that in a game that Phoenix had to have.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised, really. I mean, I think that Phoenix kind of hit their ceiling, I think, this year a little bit. And of course, it's never good when you've got, Chris Paul out with an injury. And I'm not sure really how effective he would have been, anyway in the playoffs. But I mean, the Nuggets, like you said, I think that you described it perfectly. They flexed on the Suns. They showed why they are the number 1 seed in the West. And I think that if they can continue on that momentum, and I've said it before, I think that they are an NBA final team. I think that they are a team that could absolutely win the championship. I think that I don't care if it's the Lakers or the Warriors, coming out of that other semifinal. Give me the Nuggets to go to the NBA finals and represent the West.
Interesting. I think any of those 3 teams can win it. I think that all 3 of those teams can win it. I think the Celtics or the Sixers can win it. So really, you've got this Heat-Knicks series, and the Heat come back home up today, 3-2 with a chance to clean it. It really becomes a question of, can the Heat win it if they were to get to that point? Can they get there, and can they win it? I'm going to say no. As much as I love that story, as much as people doubt them, as much as, all of those things, they're still the 8 seed. And I just don't see a scenario where out of anybody we just mentioned, Boston, Philly, Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, that they're going to be able to beat any of those teams. So that's just a, whatever. Take that for what it's worth. It's not worth much. What it is, though, is it creates a scenario where we at least have, 5 teams that we feel like could do it. And all 5 of those teams are still alive. And that's what the NBA has going for it. We talked to Adrian Griffin yesterday, and he brought this up, and I've talked about it before. Like, go back and look at like a 30-year, 40-year glimpse at NBA champions. There isn't a lot of variety there, right? Like, it's the same teams a lot of different times. And so when we talk about it this year, you've got the Warriors and the Lakers who have a bunch of them, but then you're going to have Boston, Philly, the Nuggets. There's a real good chance we get a team that doesn't, and the Celtics obviously have a ton of these. So I shouldn't say them. So you get the Sixers, you get the Nuggets. Do you root for one of those teams more? Like, do we root for that variety, or does it matter because, this Celtics team in its current iteration doesn't have one, right? The Lakers and the Warriors do. But the Nuggets, the Sixers obviously don't have a ton of that. Like, what do we generally root for in stuff like this?
I mean, I'm always going to go and look at the teams that historically haven't been there, as a team that I want to get behind and root for. I think that's been a big reason why I've been so resistant of the Warriors over the last couple of years. Like, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of the dynasty, I'm tired of the years where they just rolled over everybody. And so it is refreshing, when you see another team step up that historically hasn't been there. That's why I was fully behind the Raptors when that happened. And of course, the Fred VanVleet connection, helped that as well.
And
I was fully behind the Bucks, when they made their run. I've been, behind the Nuggets and what they've been doing. I mean, it's fun to me to see teams that aren't traditionally, at the top of the mountain get there. And so I think that that's a huge reason why. I think collectively that's what people go for. Like, you hear about the Lakers all the time. You hear about the Warriors all the time. Like, there are these teams that are consistently either there or they're the media darlings because they're in major markets. It's always fun to have another team like the Denver Nuggets be able to come in. And what we've talked about with them before is that they're not really that flashy. They go in, they handle their business, they do their thing, and they're just really successful in doing it.
Yeah, it's a good group. The NBA playoffs, they go again tonight. The Celtics wrap it up. Celtics take it to game 7, I should say. The Nuggets wrap it up, and then tonight you get Knicks, Heat, Warriors, Lakers. Both of those series could end. I think the Heat will, and I'm pulling for the Warriors to get that one to a game 7 as well as we make our way through. Jokic, what does it do for his? We saw yesterday, I think it was Mark Jackson forgot to put, and I say forgot because he admitted he forgot to put Jokic on his MVP ballot. Where are we at with Jokic? We kind of drew comparisons between James Harden and Dirk Nowitzki. Jokic is probably a more fair comparison to Dirk Nowitzki, not in the fact that they're the same kind of player, because they're not the same kind of player. But I think they have sort of the same kind of legacy to this point in their careers. Dirk was an MVP caliber player just about every year he played, like Jokic. He was close in a lot of teams. You heard, speaking of Adrian Griffin, mentioned one of those years where they were up on the Heat and lost, tragically if you're a Mavs fan. And, it always just sort of lingered there until he finally got it done against the Heat and the super team the second time around. But I think Jokic is going to be in that same spot, right? Like, Jokic has a chance to be an all-time great, like Dirk absolutely is. Where he ranks, I don't know. But he's up there. He's in the top, 20, 25, however you want to define it. Jokic is going to have a chance to get to that point, Tommy. Like, it's just the production is too good. But I don't think anybody's ever going to think of him that way until he gets at least one title. That was enough for Dirk, right? And it came later in his career than Jokic is currently in. But if Jokic can get one, is that going to be enough? Is it enough for Giannis right now, right? He's got one. Is that enough for Giannis? Is it enough, for Kawhi Leonard, who got one in Toronto? Like, when we look at legacies for these guys, is one enough? And when it's Jokic, who's going to be, probably even more so than some of the other names we just mentioned, who's going to be considered, I think, based on production, one of the all-timers, is that enough to solidify that if he's able to get this one now? Because if he does, he may never get another one again.
It's so subjective, and it's partially based on personality, right? Isn't that like a big factor in it? Like, how public and vocal these players are. I mean, that's a huge reason, and I'm not taking anything away from what he's done over the course of his long career on the court, but that's a big reason why LeBron, has been so revered for so long, is because he's so public and he's put himself in the public eye all the time. Jokic doesn't do that. Giannis doesn't really do that. Dirk didn't really do that as much, and so I think that that's a reason why, when you're talking about quote unquote legacies, there's the objective stats and what they did in their career on the court, how many titles they won, MVPs they won, things like that. But then there's also their personalities. Jokic has a long time to go. Let's keep in mind, he's only 27, 28. Like, his career is not anywhere close to being done, you would think. He's already won 2 MVPs. He's a 5-time All-Star. He's in the top 5 in the NBA in the regular season and playoffs and triple doubles, the top 5. And he's 28 years old. So there's a long time to go, and those accolades should continue to roll in for him. And the stats continue to grow, and his place and rankings continue to be elevated. But you're right. I think that the title talk, that's a big part of it too. He's got to win at least one title, but also the market he plays into it a little bit, and the personality that he has, where he's not incredibly public facing. I think that plays into it too.
It is. And it was the same problem with Dirk. I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, Dirk is one of the, talk about his place in the NBA, talk about his place in Dallas sports, right? Like, he is up there on Mount Rushmore and is so loved. But I bring it up because there's pressure here for Jokic. Is Jokic going to be a guy that, moves around, or is he going to be a Denver lifer? And like all those questions come into play. I don't know how many chances you get for this, right? And in today's NBA, maybe more than ever before, because I think the depth of talent is just tremendous across the league. How many more chances is Jokic going to get? If he doesn't get this one, look at a guy like Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was in the conversation for the absolute best player in the world. There's no doubt about that. When you consider offense and defense, like he was in the mix in those years. I don't think people think of him that way anymore, but like that was it. He had that one chance. He hasn't had another one. So like when I look at, Jokic and like this may be it. Who knows? At some point, Denver's not going to be able to hold this together forever. And it hasn't been enough, hasn't really been close to enough in years past. So if it's enough this year, and they are the prohibitive favorite for a guy like him, like I think there's I don't think there's another player in the postseason with more pressure individually. And he may not care about this legacy. I don't know. But from a perspective of us, as we watch and try to keep track of these things, I don't know that there's anybody playing in this postseason with more at stake in their legacy than Jokic is right now. Jason Tatum might get there. Jason Tatum's not there yet. Jokic, this feels a little more desperate. Like he's got to get this one if he's going to get one. I don't know if he'll have a chance to be back. Like, look at Giannis. Giannis got one. They were the prohibitive favorite this year, and they got bounced in the first round. It's hard to do now in the NBA. And here we sit.
And the Bucks fired their coach because of that too. I mean, there's certainly fallout when that sort of thing happens. I think that while there's pressure on Jokic individually, I think the organization has a tremendous amount of pressure because it kind of is like catching lightning in a bottle when you're the Denver Nuggets to be in this position. And I think that it could be very easy for Jokic if they don't make it all the way, if they don't go all the way. I think it would be easy for Jokic to say, look, with this roster and this coach and this situation and circumstance, we didn't get it done. We probably never will. I need to go somewhere else if I want to get my ring, right? And so I don't know if the pressure is that much on the shoulders of Jokic as it is on the organization, because they know that, all the stars have aligned right now to get them into a position where I feel like, honestly, regardless if it's the Lakers or the Warriors, the Nuggets are the better team. If they can't get it done, Jokic could easily say, we got to go elsewhere.
I don't know. That's the hard part. Dirk never said that. And they made, the organization just made him so important that he never needed to. That's what I mean. I don't know where Jokic stands on that. So we'll see. But a lot of pressure, NBA playoffs, a lot of juicy storylines, of course, LeBron and Steph. And, it's awesome. It's going to be great. I think we'll have a good conference final either way, and I think we're going to have a fantastic NBA finals. 869-1240 is the number to the IHOP hotline. We're going to continue to give away Fast X tickets, but we do want to tell you that you could win a trip to see Guns N' Roses at a U.S. stop of your choice on their 2023 World Tour, including round-trip airfare, hotel tickets, and a $200 gift card. Go to kfhradio.com. Enter for the chance to win this national contest. You can get your tickets now at livenation.com. Let's do another pair of Fast X tickets, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline during the break. Jad will get you taken care of, get you to Fast X, that sneak preview next week. We'll come back. Jaquan Walton has a home, and it's an interesting one. We'll touch on that when Sports Daily continues. right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Albracht and Castor, glad to be here with you today and every day here on KFH and on our video stream now. An exciting new thing we've got going for you. Congratulations to our giveaway winners on our Fast X tickets. Oh, Tommy, Jaquan Walton has a home. You know, I when I first saw it, I think we both thought the same thing. So somebody sent it to me. Jaquan Walton is now going to be at UCF. He had trouble in Alabama. They did not end up taking him. Now it's UCF. And my first thought is, oh, that's so juicy of a storyline. He goes back against a rival of the Shockers. And it took me a minute, and it took a reminder that, like, oh, wait, no, that's not right. They're going to the Big 12 now. They're no longer a rival of the Shockers.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. In fact, you sent me that, and my immediate text was, oh, man, what a matchup that's going to be. And I was like, wait, never mind. He'll be in the Big 12. Yeah, of course, he's a dynamic scorer, right? He can score in a variety of ways. I was disappointing that it didn't work out at Alabama for him and the circumstances surrounding that. I don't know where that stands. I don't know, what UCF, what their level of comfort is with the situation that Walton found himself in Alabama. But regardless, he's committed to them. Looks like they're going to take him as part of the team, and he'll be facing Big 12 opponents this coming season.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it speaks to the caliber, and honestly, like, that's a pretty good get for UCF, right? Like, if UCF needs to step in, and I mean, they're going to be in the conversation for the worst team in the league next year. No offense to UCF, but like, they're not yet at the place where they'll need to be to compete in a league like the Big 12. Jaquan Walton's going to help that out. Like, he obviously, Alabama, who was the number one team pretty universally last year, wanted him. So that tells you what he can bring to the table for them. That's a pretty interesting spot for him, and for them to try and stay competitive into that league. What is that? I mean, is it just strictly outside of Houston in Cincinnati and UCF? Are they going to come in and immediately be at the bottom? Like, I've thought so much about Houston and what they add to the league basketball wise, because I think football wise, they all three add quality to the league. But in basketball, I wonder. Cincinnati's been there and probably will get back there, especially now with the backing of the Big 12. But UCF's never been there, right? UCF's never been that kind of basketball program. And I wonder how they might be able to elevate and get there. And then we see a signing like Jaquan Walton. And it's like, okay, well, maybe UCF's not going to end up being, an eyesore on the league. And they will be. And it's not that UCF's been a bad program. They haven't been bad at all. They've been okay in the American, but they're not like Big 12 good. I wonder how quickly they can get there and how invested they'll be in trying to do it.
Yeah, they needed to get a marquee signing like Jaquan Walton. And so, it's kind of like, I guess, Alabama's loss is UCF's gain in that regard. I mean, bringing on Walton, baggage notwithstanding that Walton has, but it is a good get for that program that will be competing against top tier opponents in the Big 12. As far as other teams, I don't really know where I rank BYU in the Big 12. I don't know. I go back and forth on that. I don't know when they're consistently playing Big 12 opponents. I would put them in the bottom half of the Big 12, but I don't know if I would go all the way, saying that they would be at the bottom. Cincinnati hasn't been good in a couple of years. So I think that they're going to be near the bottom of that conference. But it's going to be, I'm really intrigued to see how these new additions to the conference in year number one will be able to find themselves inserted into the standings right away. And if, outside of Houston, if any one of those other three teams, can be able to, at least challenge and win some games in the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. This does, though. Like, I don't think Jaquan Walton's going to take UCF from the bottom to the top. I just wonder, like, as a piece, how much a difference he can make. And it makes me want to go look at, like, what UCF has done. We obviously haven't followed them. And maybe they're not done. And I wonder if they could piece something together. I assume that they can. K-State pieced something together very late in the game last year, and it certainly worked out for them. Now it's like, okay, can UCF do something like that? Can Cincinnati, for that matter, do something like that? Maybe. I think long-term Cincinnati's going to get there. This will help them, if they don't have the right coach, get the right coach and get the right players. I think they'll be okay. But, I think Jaquan Walton maybe gives us an indication that UCF's not going to mess around in basketball.
And look, Johnny Dawkins is no slouch of a coach. He was at Stanford for a long time. He's led UCF for several years. And I think that schools, the caliber of UCF, they recognize how aggressive they need to be in the transfer portal. And so that's what Dawkins has done in landing Walton. I don't know if he's done. I don't know if we're going to end up seeing a more high caliber team.
I don't think they would get Walton if they were done. To say, like, I think that I think that proves they're ready to be super aggressive, and that's awesome for the Big 12. So I was happy to see that for that regard. We'll obviously see Walton plenty of times. Hopefully the situation in Alabama ends, the right way. And I don't even know where that's at right now. But he's not going to be in the Crimson Tide. He'll be at UCF, the former Shocker. All right, 869-1240 is the number to call. We'll come back. Tom Brady, is he going to be an owner? And it's not on the team you might think. Is it going to be more than an owner? We'll talk about it next on Sports Daily.
This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
The first inning is unpredictable, but you can place a no-run first inning wager with confidence at BetMGM. Make a no-run first inning prop bet on any Friday Major League Baseball game. If only one run is scored in the first, you'll get your stake back and bonus bets up to $20. Take big swings all season long with BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, and an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Log into your account or sign up to BetMGM today. BetMGM and GameSense reminds you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. Opt-in required. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Welcome back into Sports Daily, everybody. Hour number 2 is here. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you. Jad Chambers producing, giving away movie tickets, having some fun here on a Friday. We'll get you ready for the weekend as we make our way through and let you know what's on tap today. One of the more interesting stories of the morning is Adam Schefter reports that Tom Brady is in discussions to become a limited partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Potentially his second foray, Schefter says, into a partnership with Mark Davis on a professional sports franchise in less than 2 months. I don't know what to make of this report. I've told you that I think at some point contracts for star players are going to include some sort of stake in the team. Patrick Mahomes is the guy that comes to the front of our minds for very obvious reasons, but Tom Brady doesn't have anything to do with the Raiders, never has. But I think that he's a businessman, and probably, Tommy, this is just like a business decision, a business thing. What I think is interesting, though, is I wonder about the big fat broadcasting deal he has with Fox. And, are these things going to still be allowed? I don't see any issue with it. I think you could easily split those two things, apart if you're Brady. But, I think the obvious thing people are thinking about is, well, was he opening the door to maybe playing again? And poor Jimmy Garoppolo and like all these things. But Josh McDaniels is there. So I don't know. Like, I don't want to say never or no, that's crazy, because it might not be. I think he's probably just making a business decision here. We know that he had interest in something like this in Miami, but in Miami, we heard it was to also play. So I don't know.
When I first heard about this and the report came out from Adam Schefter this morning, my immediate gut reaction was, we're literally never going to get rid of this guy. Like, that was my first immediate thought. Here we go. Never going to get rid of Tom Brady, one way or another. Either
why
he's
do you
playing,
get rid
either
of
he's
him?
broadcasting, either he is, or he's owning. Like, it's one of those three things. It's not that I want to get rid of him. It's just that, like, we've seen him for so long. Like, can you go away for a little while? That I'm just kind of burn out on Tom Brady. That's just me, though. I might be in the minority for that. Fine. If he wants to be a part owner of the Raiders, that's great. Of course, I hate the Raiders, so that would give me a reason to hate Tom Brady even more, I guess. I don't know. If he wants to be a part owner, that's cool. But I feel bad for Jimmy Garoppolo, because if this ends up happening, then of course you're going to hear a ton of speculation that he's going to play. What happens if the Raiders don't do particularly well and Garoppolo struggles and Tom Brady just happens to be part owner of the team? Could he come down from the owner's booth and play? Like, all of these different scenarios come into play now, and I'm just exhausted from hearing about it. As far as the broadcasting piece, by the way, he's never going to be a broadcaster. We're never going to see him be in the booth in Fox. It's just not going to happen.
He's not walking away from $40 million.
Sure he is. Sure he is. He doesn't want to be a broadcaster. So I think that he accepted this money. If he wanted to be a broadcaster, he'd be training for it and he'd be getting ready to do it this upcoming season, but he's not. So I think it's going to be unlikely if we ever see him broadcast.
I don't agree with that. I think that Tom Brady will need to prepare and train, yes. But Tom Brady's going to be really good at that. He is funny. He's smart. He clearly is comfortable, with a camera or a microphone. I don't know why he would walk away from $40 million. Like, it's, there. And what's interesting about, I think there are like two jobs we'd all like to have, right? Either one of those jobs would be like every football fan's dream job. You want to own a team, number one. And number two, you want to like be able to be in that booth like that. So I don't know why he wouldn't do it. Like, with that kind of money at stake, like, why not just go do it? Ownership, like, Tom Brady's rich. Tom Brady's not being an NFL owner rich. Nobody is, right? Like, these guys are billionaires. Tom Brady's not that. So getting involved with the Raiders makes some sense. I think it makes, very obvious sense from the Raiders standpoint. I mean, if you're Brady too, like, you got to imagine the possibilities of his other businesses, right? And what that might do for them. I think this is still only business at this point. And I think it's probably just an investment. I think Mark Davis is like, yeah, why wouldn't I want Tom Brady involved? I don't think, and where some of our viewers right now, our listeners, point out, like, and I think that's right too. I don't think you can be a player and an owner. I think you would have to, but I don't know if like investing is the same thing. Like, I don't know, because remember that Miami report, like, that was a part of his contract and maybe it was after he was done playing. But number one, I don't know the relationship between Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo and if that's amicable at all. I assume it probably is, right? Like, did Jimmy Garoppolo really sit there and think Tom Brady was not deserving of being the starter in New England for all those years? I imagine those guys spent a lot of time together. I imagine they're fine. But I would think this makes it more likely, if he's going to step in and like ownership role, that he's probably really is done playing. I don't think Tom Brady's going to play again. I don't think he's going to play again. Is there some scenario where they're kind of good and Garoppolo gets hurt late and maybe he could come off this? Maybe, but man, coming off the street as an NFL player doesn't seem like something that is humanly possible, even for the guy who does things that don't seem are humanly possible all the time. I think this is probably just a business decision. I think it's something to do while he has this gap year before broadcasting, and we'll see. I just, it's interesting, but I don't think there's ulterior motives here, I guess.
I'm not sure if there's ulterior motives as much as, I think that he is looking for what his next step after playing will be. And I'm not convinced that it's broadcasting. I know that he signed a deal, but there have been ample opportunities ever since he left the game to, be able to introduce himself to the Fox crowd. Fox Network had the Super Bowl this year and they could have used Tom Brady. There could have been a deal where Tom Brady could have been on the Super Bowl broadcast.
Yeah. That would have been.
He wasn't
weird.
playing in the Super Bowl
at that point, but he wasn't retired though. Like, he wasn't retired yet. That would be.
But they had already announced a deal that he would be joining Fox. That happened before he even retired.
I understand, but he wasn't retired yet by the time the Super Bowl came around. That would be a little strange. And at that point, I don't think he knew if he was going to retire still. So, and everybody, like, everyone's like, oh, well, Greg Olson's really good. Like, Fox doesn't want Brady. They've got Greg Olson. I think Greg Olson's good too. Everybody also thought Tony Romo was God's gift to broadcasting, and now they've turned on him. It happens to every broadcaster, especially every color guy, right? They're going to turn on Greg Olson at some point. If you're Fox and you, like, Tom Brady's going to be a part of anything you do, you do it. They were willing to pay him $40 million before. That does, like, why wouldn't they be now? I think that I hope he goes to the booth because I want to see it. Curtis doesn't agree with me on Twitter. He says Tom Brady is to funny as Paul Savage is to rational. I don't know why Paul Savage had to get, in the crosshairs of that. Basically, Curtis saying Tom Brady's not funny. I disagree. I think he's very funny. I think sometimes his quick reactions on social media and the way he can so easily mess with people is funny. And I think he'll be good in the booth. I just do. I've listened because we have had, Sunday Night Football broadcast on KFH forever, right? Years and years and years. And I'm in my car a lot for those for whatever reason. And I listened to Brady on those deals with Jim Gray, and he's good. Like he's going to be fine. He's going to be a good broadcaster. And I think he is going to be a broadcaster. I think he's just making an investment. I don't think we need to read too much into this yet. Do you ever think Tom Brady's going to play NFL football again, Tom?
I wouldn't put it past him. I don't think, I'm not sure I would put money on it that he would play again, but nothing would surprise me. I mean, this is the same guy that retired and then unretired, right? So I wouldn't put anything past him. That there could be a scenario where, and I don't know if it would be, as part owner of the Raiders or how that would all line out, but, that competitive fire, that competitive juice that has, propelled Brady's career for over 20 years, that's not going to go away quietly, right? That's a huge reason why he returned to the Bucs last season. So I wouldn't put anything past him. I'm not sure I would bet on it, but it wouldn't be shocking to me if we see him on the NFL field again.
I would put money that he's not. I think he's done. I think he's done. I don't think he'll be back. And I'm fine if he comes back because I'm just so fascinated by a guy at his age playing NFL football. So I'm here for it. Like if he wants to come back and see if he's still got something left in the tank, bring it. Speaking of having something left in the tank, Tommy, and I mentioned this earlier, let's look at the Jets schedule. I want to look at the Jets schedule, knowing Aaron Rodgers is there, and let's just take a stab at, what their record might be. How many winnable games do we see here on this schedule? They open with a pretty tough grind. They open on Monday Night Football at home against Buffalo. But are we ready to say the Jets, even at home against Buffalo, are we ready to potentially call that a win for them? We're just going to quickly go down the list.
I'm ready to say that I think that they can win that game for sure.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if, Aaron Rodgers' big debut in a Jets uniform with the young talent around him, if that turns into a win in week 1.
All right. So we'll be gracious there and say 1-0. What about at Dallas?
I think they can win that game too. I'm not convinced as to, how the Cowboys offense will look this year without Kellen Moore, without Zeke Elliott, without a lot of weapons on that offense. Better than I do. They don't have a lot of weapons offensively. So I think I'm comfortable saying 2-0 for the Jets there.
That's interesting. By the way, their 1.5 point early line went over to BetMGM and just checked. 1.5 point dogs at home against Buffalo. So it's close. Okay. Back home against New England. I agree. I'm not going to, I'm going to have them 1-1 through those first 2 games. Somehow they might even be 0-2, but okay. New England, I think we'll both call a win, obviously. Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't know you were asking me. Yeah, I think that's for sure going to be a win. Yeah.
Chiefs, a loss, even at home, we'll still call. Broncos, even at Denver, is a win. At home against Philadelphia.
I like Philly. Give me Philly on the road. I'm going to take them to win.
All right, so that's your first loss for them. So you have them starting 5-1. I'll have them starting.
No, I've got the Chiefs winning. I think so. They've got 2 losses at that point.
Sorry. Yeah. I looked at that wrong. So I've got them with 3 losses. You've got them with 2 through the first 6 games. So you got them 4-2. I've got them 3-3. Then they get a bye at the Giants.
I think they win that game.
Okay, I do too. Chargers at home.
This could be a year that Justin Herbert takes a big step forward. That being said, though, I'll take the Jets.
No, I'm going to take the Chargers. So I've got them at 4-4, right? And you've got them at 6-2. Okay. At the Raiders, we'll both give them a win. I've got them 5-4. You've got them 7-2. At Buffalo, both a loss there, I assume.
Yeah, the Bills should win that game at home.
All right. So you got them, 7-3, and I've got them 6-4. Then we go Dolphins at home. I'm going to give them a win there.
I'll give them a win too.
Okay. Falcons, a win. Texans, a win. I know we'll agree on that. At the Dolphins.
I think they win on the road. I think they're better, objectively better than the Dolphins are. I think that they go 2-0 against Miami.
I think it's hard for cold weather teams to go down to Miami. I'm going to give Miami the win there. At home against Washington, I'll give them a win. I assume you will too. At Cleveland, I think we'll both give them a win. And at New England, we'll both give them a win. So that puts me at what? 5-6 losses and you at 4. I think that, and the reason I went through this is I've seen a lot of people like panicking about the beginning of that schedule where Dallas, Buffalo, and Kansas City sit in the first game, and people are like, what if they end up 1-3? And even if that happens, I absolutely think that this is a playoff team. Because what's a playoff team going to have to be, right? 11-6? And I think so, yeah. And that is a very reasonable, as I look at the schedule, possibility for a team that was, I mean, what were they last year? They were almost that anyway. They were pretty good last year, right? So now they add Aaron Rodgers. I think, that definitely puts it up there into the realm.
They could have easily been a playoff team last year had Breece Hall not gotten hurt.
That's a good point. And we don't know how quickly and how, at what capacity Breece Hall immediately returns, but I think it's right there for the Jets. I think this schedule is fine. And we knew the schedule. Like, it's not like that we just learned the schedule. We already knew what they had on the plate, but it's the first time we get a chance to just really look at it. Jason on our video stream chimes in on YouTube and says, so glad the Chiefs got the Jets early in this, in the season. They'll have initial growing pains and will be much stronger late in the year. I don't know. I think that's possible. I definitely think they'll be stronger late in the year. I don't know how to guess at how quickly Aaron Rodgers will get acclimated. I think it's going to happen pretty quickly because Hackett's there, Lazard is there, and I don't think Randall Cobb's going to be much of a factor on the field at any point this year. But I think what will give them an advantage late, and this is why it's one of the the destinations that made a lot of sense for me, is because Aaron Rodgers will have a chance to be a cold weather quarterback again, where he's been as good as anybody we've ever seen. That's where I think their advantage comes, is because they become such a great cold weather team late in the year when it counts. And if they can get to the postseason, Tommy, is there enough here? And it goes back to the question. The ultimate question is, can the Jets win a Super Bowl? I mean, that's what matters, right? That's the only reason.
That's why
Rodgers
they brought
is
him
there.
That's literally the objective. Yep.
So if we've established we both think they can get to the playoffs, now it becomes, can they win a Super Bowl? We're guessing at this point. Like, we got to see them play to make an educated guess on that. But I think the opportunity will be there for them. And there we go, right? Jason asks us who we think will win the AFC East. I think the Jets will be in the mix. I think it's Jets and Buffalo. I'm still going to nod to Buffalo because we've seen it before. And consistency at head coach and quarterback matters in this league. But I do think the Jets, I'll put them ahead of Miami, even right out of the gates.
I love the back half of the Jets schedule. As we went through that game by game, I think I had them at 4-2. And then at that point, after the first 6 games, I think I only had them losing 1 or 2 games for the remainder of their season. So I love the back half of the Jets schedule. I think that they're better than Buffalo on paper. I really do. They needed a quarterback. That was literally what was lacking for them last season. They get a healthy Breece Hall back. They've reloaded up on offensive weapons at wide receiver. And of course, Aaron Rodgers is supremely motivated to go and win a Super Bowl with the Jets. That's why he's there. That's why he didn't retire. I like them to win that division.
Yeah, I'm not going to put them ahead of Buffalo. I think Buffalo, I think people are panicking and overreacting to Buffalo. Just ask it this way. Like, if the Chiefs weren't in their dynasty, would Buffalo, like, if you took the Chiefs away, do you think Buffalo would have a Super Bowl by now?
Well, yeah. Think about it this way. Buffalo was 13 seconds away from going to the Super Bowl had it not been for the Chiefs, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that if you take away Kansas City, you take away Patrick Mahomes, sure, I think Buffalo could have a Super Bowl.
And I only say that because I think we're being a little unfair. I think the general public's being a little unfair to Buffalo. I think Buffalo is just a really, really, really good team. And like, and overreactions are like, does Sean McDermott need to go in Buffalo? Like, what are you talking about? Like, look at what they've done. Look at the development of Josh Allen. Are you insane? Like, what? Why is that even being considered as a thing? Because they haven't been able to win a Super Bowl. Hello, the Chiefs are in a dynasty. Like, this is an unbelievable football team that it, unfortunately for you, is right there. And now Joe Burrow has entered the equation. Like, the AFC is just absolutely ridiculous right now. Like, you don't, this Super Bowl or bust mentality sometimes, like, especially for a young team like Buffalo, like the Jets are different because they're putting all their eggs in that basket. But to talk about like blowing it up in Buffalo because they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, that's nuts. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, I just know that there are a handful of quarterbacks out there that, when they are determined, like chip on their shoulder, they're going to go and get it done. And they do. There's only a handful of them that I can think of. Tom Brady is clearly one of them. Patrick Mahomes has been one of them. Petty Patrick. That's why they've called him that. And then Aaron Rodgers is another one. And so, there have been so many conversations, and I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I think he's a jerk. Not a huge fan of his. But that being said, he's a guy that when everybody bets against him or they feel like, he's lost his step or he can't get it done or whatever, he will take that personally and he will go out and try to prove you wrong at every step of the way. And so, this whole stint with the Jets, it could very easily be a revenge tour for Aaron Rodgers. And so, yeah, I that's why I like them against the Bills. It's not a knock on Buffalo. It's not me saying that Buffalo has gotten worse by any means. It's just that the Jets have elevated themselves quite a bit with the addition of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just want to make it's a Rodgers thing, not a Buffalo thing. Like, if it's not a knock on Buffalo, then I
Not a
can
knock on
I can
Buffalo.
get
Yeah.
on I can get on board with that. I do think people have vastly overreacted to Buffalo not winning a Super Bowl yet. Like, that's just, and I get it because there is this like creeping fear that it's never going to happen, right? Like, they won't be able to get it done. But just like the Chiefs had that too for a while, and they did get it done. And granted, it's Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith, and I understand that, but just don't totally give up. It's the NFL's the only sport I think we do this with, Tommy, where it's like people feel like we have no chance to win a Super Bowl now because they can't quite get over the edge. I don't think that's the case for Buffalo by any means at all. And we're not doing that with Cincinnati, right? We're not doing that with the Chargers. We're just doing it with Buffalo. I don't think Buffalo's better than both of those teams on paper, but here we are. I don't know. I think they're fine. I think don't panic. But if you're that high on the Jets, that's a different story. And I'm high on the Jets too. I think we may be higher than most of what I've seen in the last couple of weeks. I think Rodgers is going to be really good. I think they're going to be really good. 869-1240 is the number to call here on Sports Daily. Open for your calls to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Let's give you another pair of Fast X tickets here. Town West, 7 o'clock. IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Jad will get us some winners. We'll come back. More Sports Daily coming for you right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you here on this edition of Sports Daily. It's a Friday edition. You know, Tommy, I went and looked as we were talking about that, and it had me interested. It piqued my interest on opening week lines in the NFL. The Jets 1.5-point dogs at home there over at BetMGM. So then I started looking around like, oh boy, what advantages right now can we take on the NFL week 1 and some bets? Like, how can we bet this? It would be an interesting exercise. I wonder how much these will move. The Chiefs 7-point favorites at home against the Dolphins in week 1. That feels a little low to me. That feels a little low to me. I think I'd probably hammer the Chiefs on that as of right now.
I think so too. I mean, I think that clearly the Lions are better than they have been, for a long time, but the Chiefs are more than 7 points better than Detroit is. And it's opening night. It's
in
at
the
home.
NFL. Not
NFL
many teams are ever more than 7 points better. Remember how many times the Chiefs
are better
didn't
than
cover
the Lions
last
by
year?
that. I know
the Chiefs were a brutal covering team last year.
I know. I think I would still take them to cover though.
I would take them to cover as of now. I got to think about that. The Bengals 2.5-point favorites on the road at Cleveland. That might be my favorite of all the bets that are out there right now and available to us. I love that. I'm not in on Cleveland at all. Like, I don't buy it. I don't believe in it. I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to be very good there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but there are some times where Cleveland, which they get overhyped all the time, where I'm in on it. I'm not in on them even a little bit, Tommy. I don't think they're going to be good.
No, and then there was only a small sample size of Deshaun Watson in Cleveland towards the end of the season. And I kept thinking, when he came back, all right, he's just rusty, he'll work out the kinks or whatever. And never really happened. And so I don't know if it will. I honestly don't know. He was away from the game for so long. I don't know if he'll work out the kinks or if that's just the way that Deshaun Watson's going to play from now on.
Here's the other one I like the most. And I hate saying it because it makes my skin crawl. The Eagles are 4.5-point road favorites at New England. New England just feels like a hot, steaming mess right now. And I don't care who their quarterback is. Philadelphia is going to get after the quarterback this year. That feels like a hammer spot to me too with the Eagles. I don't see it at all there that game stays very close.
I don't know if there was a team in the NFL that had a better draft than the Eagles by drafting players that are NFL week 1 ready to play.
Right.
Like, there were several of them that the Eagles drafted. And so I think that we'll see some really high impact rookies right away making an impact for the Eagles. So I like that one too.
While we're on BetMGM, we've got the Nerfy promo bet today. The Nerfy promo bet. So when I look at these, Tommy, as we talk about, and I'm not like a Nerfy, and that's just no runs in the first inning, or yes runs in the first inning, basically. All I do, and there's probably better research than this, I just go to pitching matchups, right? And like, what's the best pitching matchup of the day? Like, where are the two best starters starting collectively today? And I sort of go at it that way. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I got to tell you, there aren't that to me, like, there's not a great collection of starters on paper. The best right now is Cubs Twins, Drew Smyly and Sonny Gray. But I don't feel like tremendously confident in that, right? I don't have one that's just jumping off the screen at me. The only one that's relatively, I mean, if you went by run total, Tommy, it's Reds Marlins is at 7.5, but it's a rookie who I think is a great rookie, but a rookie making his first ever start for Miami. That's the lowest run total. I got to really study this. I don't think there's any of them that just jump off the screen and scream at me this week on these Friday matchups.
I would take, and this one's not even great either, but the Mets and the Nationals. That's
me too. I'm with
Tyler
you on that.
McGill. Like, that one's okay, but really, other than that, there's not a whole lot of big, high-profile pitching matchups tonight.
And that's more right. And I think you're with me on this, that Gore's pretty good, right? He's okay. And then it's the Nationals offense against anybody, really.
Right.
I think we probably share a brain there. I'm going to have to do a little more research. I wish I had one to throw at everybody just right off the top of my head, but it's not there this week. That's going to be one to study up on. All right, Tommy, let's move elsewhere in the sports world. I this schedule thing in the NFL, like it is a big deal. I don't know. We've got a Christmas triple header again. The Chiefs are the Chiefs are the headline. The Bears are getting a little run. The Bears and Packers have been a Christmas Day game. They're not this year. You get Ravens, 49ers, Giants, Eagles. That's a pretty good Christmas triple header. But I don't know, like, who's the next best team in the NFL this year? It's obviously the Chiefs at putting in these high-profile games. I think Ravens-Niners is pretty predictive on who might be there late. But who is the other? Is it the Eagles? Like, have the Eagles entered that status? Like, if you're looking for the team that you want to see in primetime the most or high-profile the most, it's the Chiefs. But who do you think is the collective most interesting remaining team outside of Kansas City in the NFL? I don't know that it was Buffalo before. I don't know that that's the case. Is Cincinnati enough there yet? I think the Eagles are in that conversation for sure. I don't think the Niners are because we never know who their quarterback's going to be. I don't know that there's an obvious answer here. Is it the Jets this year?
Probably the Jets.
But there's risk in the Jets, right? It could not work like that. I think that's absolutely possible that it doesn't work.
Either way, you're going to be tuning in, whether it works or not. You're going to be watching it, and
not in week 16
public,
if they're 6-10, if they're 6-10 going into week 17, I'm not that interested in them.
Absolutely, you are, because of the fact that the Aaron Rodgers experiment is either working or it's not. But one way or another, you're paying attention to it.
But to me, they're not safe. Like, who's the safe team? I think it might be the Eagles. As weird as the NFC East has been historically, in that teams don't do it 2 years in a row out of the NFC East, or what are we going on, 2 decades now? I'm starting to think the Eagles are maybe the next safest team. What about the Ravens now that Lamar Jackson is there? Like, the Ravens are always good. I just don't know who it is. The Chargers have let us down too much. I think it could be the Bengals, but you remember the start the Bengals got off to last year where we were all scratching our heads a little bit? I just don't know who that other team is. Like, who else are you going to put in there? I think the Chiefs are way ahead of the field in that regard. Like, the highest floor by far in the NFL exists in Kansas City. You're never going to make a mistake with Mahomes and the Chiefs being in a primetime slot. I think it's the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the next safest team right now in the NFL to schedule late season primetime. I mean, they can flex out, but I'm just saying because the schedule came out. I think it's the Eagles.
I think that they're there as, a team that, because they made the Super Bowl appearance, there's going to be intrigue around them, right? Well, I mean, the Jalen Hurts contract is there. Nick Sirianni is a good coach and a fun character. And then they've got all of the supporting pieces, around in different positions on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's safe to say that, the Eagles have entered that top echelon, to be able to stay locked in on throughout the course of the season. But I'm still going to give the nod to the Jets outside of Kansas City.
All right. Yeah. I want it to be the Jets. I really do. 869-1240, the IHOP hotline. All right. What's the latest on KU recruiting, Tommy? Is anything out there right now?
Yeah, so the only thing that I know of today, obviously Mackenzie Mbako is the big target for the Jayhawks. Mbako posted on Instagram, I believe it was late last night or early this morning, one of the two, with a timer, one of those timers that he put on his Instagram story, counting it down to 5:00 this afternoon. So barring some kind of leak, some kind of leak or something ahead of time, barring that, we'll have an announcement, it looks like, from Mbako between Kansas and Indiana at 5:00 today.
And was it you that sent me something from Hunter Dickinson? Like, do we need to be paying attention to something Hunter Dickinson tweeted, like a radar with a flight thing? Is that something that means something? Am I missing that?
I mean, I would imagine that it has something to do with Mbako, right? I mean, like, he's the highest recruit, left out there. That'd be my thought. I don't know. I don't have any other insight.
So
on what that
I
would
thought
mean.
about this, and just like it came full circle on this yesterday. I think the fact that we saw Ernest Uday transfer out really, really makes me think that Mbako's coming to Kansas. I don't know why else Uday would have done that with that timing, unless he had some feel and indication that Mbako was going to come in. But the only thing is,
I don't know if that's a
they
correlation,
weren't
though, to be honest
competing
with
with
you.
each other. But why would Uday like the timing on it is very curious to me.
I think the timing on it, in my mind, comes from the fact that, you're waiting for Dickinson to commit. And then after that, maybe there was an indication given to him just recently that Dickinson's commitment was more than just 1 year. That would be my correlation as to why Uday transferred out when he did. And the reason why I don't think Mbako has really any correlation is because they don't play the same position. Mbako is a wing, could maybe play the 4. Uday is a straight up 5.
I get it. And I started in the same place. It's the timing of it that makes me think that he thinks he could get back. Because even if they're not at the same position, the rotation will be what the rotation is. I don't know. I mean, well, here's the other possibility too, is that Ernest Uday saw what Hunter Dickinson basically got on the open market and was like, well, maybe I can go get something on the open market and find minutes. And I don't know. I mean, he's a big time prospect, so he was probably just fine at Kansas in that regard. But when you see what Hunter Dickinson was able to do based on production, it is logical to me to think about production being a big part of what you need to do, and he needs minutes. I'm just telling you, I've had this thought in the back of my skull that should be some indicator that Mbako's coming to Kansas. I don't know why, but yesterday, that has just been itching at me, is that with Uday leaving, I really think Mbako's coming into Kansas. And that is based on absolutely nothing, by the way. I don't have anybody telling me that or anything like that.
Right.
I have this feeling.
Well, basically every single recruiting insider that follows that, they've all suggested that Mbako is bound for Kansas. Now, who knows? I mean, there could be a late push from Indiana. There could be a late NIL push or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. But all indications as of right now, as it stands, is that he will commit to the Jayhawks. But we'll have to wait till 5 o'clock to find out.
Here's the other one that I have for you as it pertains before we take a break to Mbako. If he does come, does that tell us anything about Kevin McCullough? Right? Because remember, Kevin McCullough's
not coming back.
Well, self hinted at it, and what Dickinson was just able to do. I don't think McCullough's like a draft pick. So, if that's what Dickinson's worth, I don't think that's what McCullough would be worth, but he'd be worth a lot, I would think. But do they recruit Mbako if McCullough, and they have room for both of them, but does Mbako come if he thinks McCullough's coming? And how much hand in hand is there involved with all of this? I don't know. It's so hard now in this when you're a team like Kansas, who's at the top of it, to sort of see what one thing means for the other. Kansas is going to be good next year either way. But I say all of that to ask you this. If you have for next year only, your perfect case scenario, if you could have Mbako or McCullough who at that 3 spot, if that's what we assume where he'd be, who would you rather have?
For next year only?
For next year, to win a national championship.
Probably McCullough, only because he's a veteran, and he's been there before. I think Mbako has a much higher upside for sure, long term, more than just next season. But if you're giving me next season only, it's McCullough. It's not going to happen, though. I know Bill Self hinted that he would like McCullough back. McCullough's not coming back, though.
But how do you balance that? Let's say Bill Self has to make that decision. And I'm not saying he does. I don't think he does either. But how do you balance that? Do you take the top 10 5-star player who's going to make the program good for a long time? Or do you bring in McCullough who could really help you win a natty? I love I know that bothers some people. To me, it's fascinating. I can't to add that wrinkle to what they already have to do. And now that it's roster management is just wild to me to think about. 869-1240 is the number to call. We'll come back. More Sports Daily as we make our way through a Friday. We'll get you prepped for a busy weekend on the Diamond next. right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Tommy, we've got Wichita State softball in the AAC semifinals today. It starts at 11 o'clock, actually, right when we get off the air here. They'll take on Tulsa. Don't envision anything crazy coming from Tulsa, a team they've played very well over the years. We've talked at length here about what's at stake. We don't know if they'll be able to host a regional. We do know winning this tournament is critical for those chances if they still even exist. Obviously, they want to win the conference tournament anyway. I just wonder this year, whether they host or not, it does feel a little bit different to me in their chances of making a run in the postseason, because I think they've got some pretty good pitching this year. And I'm curious, we've spent all our time really thinking about like hosting that regional and probably not enough time talking about how deep a run could they make, because they've already beaten Arkansas and Oklahoma State. So unless they ended up at OU again, which would be just tragic if that were to happen, I think they have a chance, as long as it's not Oklahoma, to advance out of a regional this year and on to super regionals.
Yeah, but don't you think, though, that the odds are significantly better if they get to host the regional to be able to make it out of the regional, right? I mean, like, I don't know what the odds are nationwide on, regional hosted teams making it out of the regional that they're hosting versus when you're going somewhere. I don't know what that looks like, the all-time records on that, but you would think that they would have a much better chance advancing out of a regional that they're hosting rather than going on the road. So I think you have to treat this conference tournament as a must win. They want to win it, like you said, regardless if they're hosting a regional or not. But each game, as they make their way through the tournament, they've got to look at it as one step closer to potentially hosting that regional, where Kevin Saul mentioned it on Wednesday. Really, in their minds, the only way that they'll even have a shot to do that is by winning the conference tournament.
Well, yeah, they got to do that. I mean, like, they have to. I get it. I just, even if they don't, like, because they're,
I like their chances obviously better to advance out of a regional if they're hosting it.
I do too. That's not what I mean. I'm saying just in general, no matter where they play, right? As long as it's not in Norman with Oklahoma, I think their chances of getting through any regional, whether it's in Wichita or, Fayetteville or Stillwater, are pretty good. And how could you not think that? They beat those teams this year. I mean, if they are not here, I think they're going to be at one of those two places, I think. So, I mean, I like their chances to do that.
Sure. And look, they're a talented enough team that, you put them up against anyone at any time, at any place. I'm sure that that's their mentality. We'll play them, we'll beat them, we'll move on, right? And this is a team that has the talent, not only hitting, which they've had that talent for a number of years now, but now with pitching, they've added that other element where they've got some really dominant pitchers like Alex Aguilar, who was Rookie of the Year, I think, or Freshman of the Year, whatever that award was from the conference, which is outstanding. They've got that pitching now where, I'm sure that they do think that they could go to whatever regional they're placed in if they're not hosting and have a chance to advance out. So it's there, and that's the mentality that they have to have, regardless of what the committee decides to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. For baseball, it is pretty simple, by the way we understand it, right? They got to win the conference tournament if they're going to play in the postseason. And then it becomes, can they? The regular season matters because they still have a chance to win the regular season championship, obviously, and that's certainly important to the team, right? But, you get that series starting today against South Florida. By the way, you'll hear game one right here on KFH. You'll hear all the games right here on KFH. You want to still win the league. I don't know the likelihood of that now because you've got to chase back down East Carolina, but it's postseason or bust. And sort of the same thing then. Do they have a chance to win the conference tournament? They can pitch. They beat the top dogs, East Carolina. They swept them.
Yeah, the Shocker baseball squad that we saw in April absolutely has a chance to win the conference tournament. Not the squad that we've seen the last couple of weeks. That's the big question.
That's a good way to put it. All right, we'll tell you about that series, what else is coming for us here on KFH today. We'll put a bow on it. What's on tap? It's all coming as we wrap Sports Daily. All right, busy weekend coming up on KFH. Here's what's on tap. Jim Rome right after us. Regular day of programming up until 5:40, and that's when Wichita State baseball takes over. Mike Kennedy has it. Game 1 against South Florida. Saturday, Game 2 at 1:40 pregame, followed by the Royals at 6 o'clock. Wichita State baseball on Sunday, Mother's Day edition, 11:10 a.m. is when it begins. Thanks to all our callers today, our movie ticket winners, everybody here for joining us. It's been a great week. Jad will be out next week. Jad, have a happy vacation. For Tommy Castor, I'm Jacob Albracht. We will see you Monday.
Sports, later news, and